All right, go ahead.
Okay. So Kyle, what do you do and what is your daily routine?
Well, I DJ. I DJ for different types of events and venues, weddings, parties, sometimes at clubs back in Chicago, where I'm originally from. And I would usually be with a group of other DJs, and we would kind of switch off because after a 4-hour set, people get tired, even though you're kind of just standing there.
Yeah.
It's quite exhausting. My daily routine, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of just you get up in the morning. Maybe you'll have some ideas in your head that it's a very, I guess, natural type of process of coming about with music or what you think would sound good. So, however it is you're feeling that day, maybe you create a set based off of that, your mood. Today I was kind of angry, so I started coming up with ideas for angry songs
I see.
and how that would convey to other people in that way.
Okay. Cool. Now, what have you done to get to where you are?
Well, when I first realized that I wanted to be a DJ, I started listening a lot. And that's kind of one of the things that they teach you as a young kid. As a student, you're growing up, you need to listen, pay attention, do your research, do your homework. And so another good thing is that I sought out a good teacher. So at the time, my friend Sylvia, she started DJing about a year or two before me. And so being like one step ahead of me, she was able to relate to me really quickly about what I needed to do. She told me what I needed to buy, how much money to set aside for it, where to go, who to talk to, and different types of equipment to keep my eyes out for, because sometimes you might find a good deal. The next thing I started doing was market research, which in a sense meant more listening. You start going out to bars, you go out to clubs. At the time I couldn't go out to them, but you just kind of listen to the radio too, because it's usually later on the night, it's kind of similar to what they would play in a club. As a DJ, you are the entertainment, so you kind of have to understand and feel out what people are liking, and at the same token, you're in control of it too. So you have a lot of responsibility to do well. For the misconception, I think sometimes as a DJ is they just play the next song, from the next song to the next, and really it involves a lot more than that. It involves you paying attention. Like I said, the first two things I said is I listen, so you have to kind of understand what is being liked at that time, because you can't play a rap song and follow it with an R&B song if the people are still kind of very amped up for whatever song you were just playing before. There have been times where I've been to a party and the DJ just presses shuffle essentially, and that's not really a DJ. You could have a iPod do that.
Yes.
I guess the other thing I started doing once I, started getting some traction and my bearings straight on being a DJ was I actually listened to my mother. Despite her being very against me pursuing DJing as a full-time career, she did offer some good words of advice, which was, if you're going to do anything, you might as well do it right. You might as well be a professional at it. Don't just half-ass it. And so she advised me to, set up a website. She told me get business cards, because you never know when an opportunity might come by that somebody needs DJ. And it turns out that a few of the most impactful career shifts or steps that I've taken have been while I've just been out there randomly walking around or sitting at a bar and just talking to the bartenders, being like, hey, you guys could use a DJ here. True story. And it happens.
That's cool.
Yep.
And after you listened to your mother and created your own website and cards, did you?
Yeah, after I listened to her, things started coming into place. Interestingly enough, it was very, systematic in that you get your name out there, you start acting like a professional, and people start believing that you are one. As weird as that may sound, it actually does work. And so when word gets around that, oh, there's a DJ and he's starting off, and he's local, usually little bit cheaper at that time. People are under the impression that you're capable of playing just like anybody else. In my case, it was, and it was for a lot cheaper. So they the jobs started coming in. People started asking me if I could DJ at one time for 8 hours in a row, and I said, oh my god, that's just ridiculous. And so good thing I had Sylvia and a few of my other friends to kind of know how much is that going to cost, because how much is it going to cost for me, because 8 hours sitting at a desk in an office is a lot different than 8 hours standing on your feet with blaring 120 decibel music in your ears. Not to mention being responsible for keeping all of those people happy for 8 hours. So that was the combination of all of those things, and the I guess how it all happened is.
And I guess that leads into my next question then. What advice would you give to someone that is looking for a career change, or really doesn't know what they want to do, or feels pressure that they need to follow their parents' wishes, and is considering maybe a career in DJing?
Well, I think as contradictory to what I'm about to say sounds, you kind of do need to have an end goal, whether it be if you want to do this for the rest of your life. You kind of have to just go at it and understand that there's going to be a lot of challenges to come with it. And this is, I think, for any type of job. It doesn't necessarily have to be DJing, because we know we try to live a very calculated life, but in reality, things pop up out of nowhere. 1 + 1 does not always equal 2. You're gonna have life events that will come in the way of you pursuing what it is you want to do, and there will be challenges that you could not have foreseen happening. I think for any type of professional that always happens, and if it isn't, then you're probably not doing a good job what you're doing if you're not being challenged. And so the next thing I would say to do is, okay, if you create an end goal, whatever it may be, if it's short-term, long-term, if you want to just do this for 5 years, 10 years, even do it for a summer and see where it goes, then go do it. Stop sitting around and talking with your friends. Stop sitting around and talking with yourself, or thinking of all these other types of roadblocks to put in your way of, oh, well, this might happen. Just go do it, because honestly, why not? Just give it a shot. If it doesn't work out, try something else, because if you want to think about by the time you're 50 or 60 or even 30 and you look back and say, well, man, I really wish I would have done that, well, why didn't you? It's a simple question. Why didn't you do it?
Yeah. And are there things that you do as a DJ and in your job that you don't like to do?
Well, I guess there aren't really things that I don't like to do. There are just certain events that I don't like to do, which is really weddings, because those are probably the most stressful things. However, they are the most lucrative. If you're in the Bay Area, and this is probably where your attentions are going to be grabbed right now, if you're in the Bay Area, you can charge for one wedding $1,000 minimum, upwards to $2,000 to $3,000, depending on what type of equipment and how long. If you're gonna MC it, so just try to multiply that times however many weeks, 52 weeks, $1,000 for one day. That's a pretty good amount of money for that. And if you did if you did 2 weddings in one weekend, if you were able to charge $2,000 after you got really good, it's not a bad job to have here.
But I guess.
What do I?
You'd say that's.
I would say for me, but for me,
level.
the stress levels, you have to be willing to do. You have to do everything that the bride says. You have to do everything that the rest of the wedding planner says, and you always have to take the request, because when they're having a good time, like, it's most crucial when a person at a private event is having a good time, because your tip is very impacted by that, and when everyone's having a really bad time, the whole, it's very hard to dig yourself back out of that.
Got it. I see. Now, it's somewhat of a question I asked earlier, but how did you get started?
So I was never really a musical person. I never really play that many instruments. I tried to do guitar. I tried to play piano, like my parents wanted me to. But when I first started was a friend of mine had some turntables and we were just hanging out, and I went up to them and I just started playing on them. And I said, wow, okay. I mean, because I've always listened to, well, I call it techno music. Nowadays, you kids call it EDM, but it's house music properly. And I just started playing with it, and because I had heard it so much, I kind of was able to feel it out and, you know, make the transitions to beat match it correctly. And it just kind of happened. And, you know, at that time in my life, I kind of just was willing to accept, you know, if this is what feels right, if this is something, then I'm going to go with it. So, of course, when I first started, I started doing it privately in my own house, or in my own apartment, rather, and with just a friend around. But then the first public DJing that I ever did was actually not public by most standards. It was on the internet.
Yeah.
So we set up a broadcast through one of our laptops and had our turntables plugged into them, and we were broadcasting once a week on something called Second Life, which is it's a nerdy platform for people to meet other people and to create cities. It's kind of like The Sims, but with the social networking aspect to it.
Nice.
So yeah, I mean, that was pretty cool because you actually are performing for people and they can actually criticize you or compliment you in real time. So it wasn't just making music and putting it out there and see if somebody liked it or not. It was actually getting live feedback.
I see.